Hello friends, I am Shelly Clough and today we are going to walk through how to paint some of these cute little ghosts in watercolor. I have been teaching some in-person workshops showing how to do these ghosts and they have been a lot of fun, so I wanted to come on here and make a video tutorial for you as well. So we'll dive in just a moment. I'll show you the supplies I'm using. I'm going to be using this Canson XL watercolor paper, and then I have a palette of paints here and I'll link below all the colors that are in that palette. And then I just have a size 6 and a size 4 round watercolor brush that I'll be using. So we are going to go ahead and dive in and learn how to paint some ghosts. First thing I'm going to do is take a spray bottle and just wet down this palette. And what this does is it sort of activates all my colors so that I don't have to work so hard with the brush to wake them up. I'm just going to scoot this up a little bit. So my paints are sort of getting ready over here. And the first thing that I want to walk us through how to do is a little ghost. I am a big fan of Halloween, but I don't love really spooky decorations. I like them to be kind of more fun and playful, and so I like to make these ghosts not super spooky, just a little bit playful. Halloween, but not scary. So the first thing I'm doing, I am grabbing this color here. It's called Indigo. You can also grab a little bit of Payne's Gray. Either one of those works. Probably actually Payne's Gray is a little bit better, but what we're doing is adding a bunch of water to it so that we can have a super light wash of this color. And that's going to give us, when you're trying to paint white in watercolor, it can be tricky to do. And this really light wash of like a blue-gray is a great option for that. So, and I'm using a number 6 brush right now. These are a line of brushes from Blick that I use in my workshops. So for the ghost, what I'm going to do, let me show you really quick kind of some of the shapes that we're going for. So this could be the shape of a ghost, or this one here. And what I'm going to do is do the first half of it and then come and fill in the other half. And I'll show you why in a second. So I'm going to start up at the top and kind of make an arched shape and run my brush downward, kind of swoop it outward, and I'm going to start filling this in. If I make a whole line around the perimeter to begin with, it's going to start drying, and then I'm going to be fighting with a line around my ghost the whole time. But so I'm going to take this and sort of fill it in as I go. So I've got that domed shape that I'm making on top. I'm going to come down and I'm going to sort of flare this side out a little bit and then curve it down like this. Just get some loops going there. And then I'm just going to fill this all in and try to get rid of any lines that are starting to form. Those lines will happen when it starts to dry before, or when it starts to dry and then you go over it with another layer of paint. So here is my basic ghost shape. I'm just going to really make little points on the edge here because it helps it look, gives it sort of that fabric look. And this is sort of the base shape of ghost number 1. And now while that dries, I'm going to make a second ghost shape. So you have a couple of options here to work with. So for the second ghost, I'm going to sort of bring it up. And again, I'm going to sort of start to fill in here. And then for my bottom, I just want it to go more evenly across. I'm doing a few more ripples and then bringing it down here and then trying to work quickly so I can fill it all in before my edges start drying. And again, it's almost difficult to see what I'm doing because it's so light, and that's okay. This somehow the contrast shows up a little better once it's dry. So I'm just taking water and using just water to spread that color around so that I have a really light wash. I don't want it to be a dark gray color. And you can see down here, I have a little bit of a line that has dried, and it doesn't bother me too much because it will help to give some shape to this ghost in the end. But I'm just sort of tickling my brush on the areas where I don't want that line to settle. So now I've got ghost number 2, and let's see how ghost number 1 is doing. That's actually feeling pretty dry. So I'm going to go through with a second layer on the first ghost and show you some of the ways that we can create some dimension. So I'm going to get that same color and just a little bit darker version, a little bit of Payne's Gray, a little bit of indigo, and I just want it a little bit darker. And what I'm going to do is, in order to capture the look of draping, so these are they're sort of like sheets and they are draping down, we want to create some shadows on our ghosts. So we're going to take where we've dipped and we have kind of a point coming up, we're going to follow that into sort of a pointy triangle shape. So if I grab my brush here, I'm going to come, so I've sort of got a dip happening here. I'm going to make just a light little triangle, and it's important to have curves on these edges. So I'm going to kind of bring this up and show you. These parts of the triangle are curved, and this is curved, and then this is it goes to a nice thin point on top. So those little tiny details will really help to pull out that sort of ghosty shape. And they don't have to be, don't make them all the same height, just kind of give a variety of sizes to these guys. And I'm just sort of filling in, they're almost like little Eiffel Towers that we're making. And this one, so here it's puddling just a tiny bit. If you get that, dab off your brush on the paper towel and then just sort of roll it in the paint. And it's a great way to pick up some extra color that is more than you wanted. Your brush works like a mop, and that's for putting water down and also picking it up. So once I've got my 3 main kind of crevices built in here, I'm going to start making just a few other little flicks up from the bottom, following the same sort of flow that I want it to look like my ghost is going. So there's my few little, I'm going to do a little bit more over here, maybe a little bit on this part here. Okay, so there is my first ghost. Now I'm going to go add a layer to my second ghost, because this one feels like it's pretty dry now. So again, I'm just going to follow the where I've made kind of these bumps at the bottom and make these little triangles that come up. One here, and then some little baby ones for these, because I have a lot more bumps that I've made on this ghost. And this one, see, I'm angling it to match the angle of this kind of draping happening over here on the side. And then again, just a few more little marks. I'm just sort of very lightly dancing my brush up and over here to get some of that kind of the folding that happens with fabric. And I like to do just a little darkness on one side of it. You can see I did that on both of them here. Just helps to pull the shape out a little bit. And once I've got sort of some of that coloring done, now I can add some face to my ghosts. And this is the fun part. This is where you get to decide how spooky or how friendly you want your ghosts to be. So now I'm going to mix up a very dark color of this Payne's Gray. I'm going to actually use a smaller brush for this part so I can be more precise. I'm just going to switch to a size 4. And mixing up this nice dark tone, because basically I want the eyes and mouth to look almost black. So this is much thicker than you often work in watercolor, but it will create the shapes that I'm wanting here. So with a ghost, so you can see I have a few different faces here. Let me find a couple examples so you have some ideas to work with. So you can see here, this ghost has got some sunglasses. This one's making kind of a surprised face. This one I actually painted to look like it's going to the side. So depending on the mouth and the face you want to put on them, you can change their expression. But generally for their eyes, I like to create sort of an oval shape. So I'm just going to go in, and they don't have to be perfect ovals. You just want them to be sort of similar in size. If they look a little wonky, that's okay. And then for the mouth, I like to kind of make it's like a rounded diamond shape. I feel like makes a good little ghost mouth there. Kind of woo. And for my second ghost, I might make a little smile on this one. So I'm going to do the same eyes, if you want to, you can actually leave a little fleck of white space out, and then it looks more like it's a ghost that can see. It gives them little pupils, so you can decide which one of those styles you like better. And then I'm going to give this one just kind of a little side smirk. There's my little side smirky ghost. So those are 2 ways to do a ghost. Now, I showed you a couple other styles. I want to show you 2 other ways that you can lay out a ghost. So we're going to do more. I'm just going to turn my paper over. Actually, I'm just going to grab a fresh paper here. So a new piece of paper, and I'm going to do a couple more ghosts. So I showed you one earlier where it was sort of like it was going to the side. So I want to show you that really quick. I'm just diluting a color of Payne's Gray so that it's a super light wash again. And then I'm going to start kind of the same shape as the first ghost we did. I want it to drape over this way, and I'm just trying to wet. As soon as I lay a line down, I'm trying to wet it. So I want it to arch up over here and kind of come out again. So again, very similar to that first shape that we did. Just re-wetting. You can see I'm working quickly here so that I don't get any of those lines drying on my ghost. That's the trickiest part of this. And this is where if you do have a little higher quality paper, it won't dry quite as fast, but it will also just be more expensive, and so you'd be more nervous to mess it up. So I like paper that's cheap enough where I'm not worried to mess it up. Okay, and then I'm going to do a second ghost down here. I'm going to come, and this one you'll kind of see what I'm doing more at the end as we add some shadow. So I'm just going to make a similar shape of the second ghost we did, sort of a symmetrical, and make my loops up here, and then again just try to fill all that in before it dries. One of the students at my last workshop remarked how these ghosts are really fun because or this painting project is fun because you get a lot of creative freedom, because you get to decide what your ghosts look like and what kind of face they have and things like that. So, all right, now probably dry enough for me to add another layer here. So I'm just going to grab kind of that medium tone of the Payne's Gray. You can see I sort of have a gradient of color. I've got my darkest Payne's Gray, kind of this mid-tone, and then a really light wash there. So I'm kind of, oops, somehow some purple snuck in there. Let's get that purple out. Okay. So I've got this mid-tone. I want to make sure it's dark enough that it's going to show up when I put the second layer on. And then again, I'm just going to follow. And this one, I want to have all my little triangles sort of angling this way because I'm going to put a ghost face on the side like my ghost is going that way. So I'm going to angle these kind of this way a bit. And then again, sort of get some of my little marks in here. Okay, feeling pretty good about that. And then I'm going to, so now on this second ghost, I'm going to show you another way to paint the base of your ghost. So it kind of shows on this one right here, where if we do a big dark area at the bottom, it's like we can see underneath the ghost. So I'm going to show you how we do that. So again, I'm just taking that really dark mix of Payne's Gray. And the key to making this shape is to make sure that it tapers. So on one side, we want it to be nice and thin, and then it's going to get wider as we come to the middle, and then it's going to taper really thin again on the sides. And that's going to create that illusion of kind of looking under the ghost. So I'm going to meet this first corner here and make just kind of a really thin line, and then come outward and do similar loops, and then meet that first corner again. And I'm just going to fill that all in with a dark color. Okay, now while that is still wet, I'm going to drop just a little extra pigment in there to make sure it is super dark. Okay, you see how it kind of looks like we can see underneath that ghost, and then I'm going to do just a little bit of that shading kind of up this way as well. Okay, feeling good about that. Just some little flicks. Now I'm going to put my face back on this top one. So I'm going back in with my size 4 brush, and I'm going to mix again a nice dark color of this Payne's Gray. And then in order for this one to look like it's going that way, I only want to paint the side of the face. So I'm going to do one eye instead of both of them, and then one mouth. I'm going to do kind of a little happy mouth here. Now, and I'm going to do just a little bit of a second eye here, like that. And now my ghost looks like he's going that way. And then this one, should we do some sunglasses on this ghost? So for sunglasses, I like to do a couple of U shapes. Right here, we're going to do a couple of U's, and it helps to leave just a tiny bit of white on there. So kind of, nope, just kidding, I'm going to fill it all in. You can leave a little bit of white if you want. So there's sort of my sunglasses shape, and I'm just going to go across here and then do a little loop, little line with a loop. And there is my ghost. And this one, I'm going to do a little side smirk for that guy. Look how fun those little ghosts are. Okay, so those are our Halloween ghosts. Let's bring them all out together. Here's how we make some easy watercolor ghosts. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'm going to try to post a few more Halloween workshops or Halloween tutorials so that you can see some other fun projects. But I thought we would get started with some ghosts. So happy Halloween, and I hope you have fun painting.